guys, we're here with another episode on Karting Kids with Anthony Martella. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. My name is Anthony Martella. I'm a USF 2000 driver, driving for J. Howard Driver Development, currently on the road to Indy. And I'm here with these two little guys doing an interview.
So, Anthony, I'll start us off with the first question. So, how old were you when you first started racing?
I think when I first started racing, I was either 10 or 11 years old. Started at Motorsport Karting Center where you guys race. And yeah, I was still very young, driving in Briggs Junior Light. And yeah.
When did you realize you wanted to become a race car driver, and what inspired you? Because I heard you played Mario Kart.
I used to play Mario Kart a little bit when I was a little kid, but I think what inspired me was meeting Sebastian Vettel at the Formula One Grand Prix at Montreal. Him, as well as my dad and my grandfather, had a big passion for motorsports. I think that kind of reflected on me ever since I was a baby and wanting to pursue racing as a passion.
So, during a big race, how do you know, when to do a certain move? Is it instincts or is it just skill?
I mean, a lot of things obviously go on during the course of a race. But for me, when someone makes a mistake in front of me, that's when obviously the best time is to go for a pass or for an overtake. And yeah, the main thing about racing is just to not make as much mistakes and let your competition make the mistakes for you and capitalize on them.
So even champions don't win every single race. So how do you come back stronger?
Yeah, I learned that the hard way this year. At Calabogie, I should have won the race, but I got a DQ in that race, putting me fifth in the points, and I had to claw my way back in the championship, and just ended up second. But yeah, it's definitely tough. I mean, you gotta be really consistent with your results, and that's the best way to win a championship.
So, during an intense race, like Florida, when you were so close to that podium and you know you had the pace to do it, how do you stay mentally strong for your next races knowing that you can do it, but you're just not close enough?
I mean, same objective as usual. You gotta show up. You gotta be confident. You gotta be aggressive, and yeah, just gotta have that good mindset to just you can do it. So just go out on track and deliver the results.
What do you do during the off season? Do you have a simulator? Do you do indoor karting? What do you do?
Yeah, I do a lot of sim racing on iRacing, as well as going to the gym every single day, eating right. I think that's what really brings out an athlete, all those traits, and it shows when you go onto the racetrack.
So, for kids like me and Nathan, what advice do you have for us to help pursue our careers in what we want to do?
Advice I'd give you guys is really just learn as much as you can while in go-karting. You guys are so young, you guys are sponges when people give you advice. So that's really what I would say. Just learn as much as possible and just take advice from everyone.
How does it feel to be the youngest winner in the SCCC championship? Because that's really big.
Yeah, I mean it was a very, very tough race. Racing Toronto Indy is very there's not a lot of room for error, so you got to just be on it. And before that race, I was locked in. I was just in the trailer listening to my music and going out on track, just ice cold, pulled away from the field, and it was definitely a hard race, but just keeping my mind into it, not making any mistakes, and yeah, able to bring it home.
So, as a driver, how you've developed so much, what advice would you give your younger self?
Advice I give my younger self is to work harder at a younger age. That's what I would give my younger self. I took it as a little bit of a hobby when I first started, but then when I knew I could do it and I knew I can be fast. That's when I started taking it a little serious.
So how big of a role does your dad play in when you're racing?
My dad plays a big role. He manages everything with the team, and myself, making sure I'm doing my job and the team's doing their job. And yeah, he's very hands-on, and he won't stop for anybody. He'll just do what he thinks is right.
So, talking about your dad, do you think you'd beat him in a race?
Yes, for sure. I think maybe 40 years ago, I think he could have been better than where he is today, but yes, absolutely.
How important do you think it is to have a diet to eat the right foods and work on fitness and stuff?
I think that's what makes a good race car driver. When you're in that car doing a long distance, I mean, it's challenging for sure. So you got to be in the right shape. You got to have a good neck stability to handle the G forces, obviously, and you got to be fast as well.
So, what makes racing in general stand out from other sports?
I mean, I did a lot of other sports like soccer, hockey. I mean, we live in Canada, so hockey's kind of a big thing here. But for me, it was just always my grandfather and my father's favorite sport. So that was really the only option that I wanted to do ever since I was a little baby.
So, what's your favorite F1 driver and why?
My favorite F1 driver would be Sebastian Vettel because I met him when I was really young. Like I said, he was a big inspiration for me when he was on Ferrari, and yeah, he was the one that actually let me introduce to karting and everything. And yeah, I'd say Sebastian Vettel and also Lewis Hamilton's for the same reasons. They're just great people, great drivers, and I inspire to be like them one day.
So, what was your journey to get into karting? Because I met Lorenzo at K1 Speed.
Yeah, for me, like I said, my father and my grandfather were a big inspiration for me. So I got into a go kart when I was 10 or 11. I got into Briggs Junior Light at Mossburg Karting Center and started off in Mika. And after that, I did a few years in Mika, but then I felt like it wasn't enough for me. That I wanted to race with better competition and race with the best in North America. So I went down to the States, did a full year in X30 Junior, and did the Supernats while finishing I think seventh at the Supernats. Big accomplishment, only doing only 1 year in two stroke. And then after that, the year after that, I stayed in junior, got third at the Florida Winter Tour Championship, and then I moved directly to shifter, which was a big learning curve for me as well, racing against the best in the world. But I'm 13 years old, 14 years old, uh, I just had to sink or swim in the deep field at shifter. And then after that, I raced Supernats and shifter, made the main event, which was pretty cool, only being 14 at the time. And then I got into USF Junior. So it was really me, my mom, and my dad. We had a talk on what was the end goal. And for us, it was really how can we get to IndyCar? So the route that we wanted to go to is the road to Indy. And the bottom of the list in road to Indy was USF Junior. So that's where I did most of my testing last year. And I did a few races in road to Indy as well. And midway through the season, we did a lot of sports car races in Canada, and now I had a lot of experience after racing USF juniors and in the Audi in Canada. So now we brought our focus onto the second on the ladder system in USF Pro Championships and USF 2000, and now we signed with Jay Howard Driver Development. I think we're one of four drivers on the team, and looking for a good year in 2025.
So, for people like who don't really know about racing and just watch just for the entertainment, what is USF X30? What do those mean?
So X30 is like a motor, like an IME motor. So it's just X30 Junior. You go down to the States, and that's the class you're going to be running in.
I was gonna ask a similar question, like what's Supernats for like the people who don't understand?
Supernats is a parking lot racetrack in Las Vegas. It's the biggest parking lot track in the world, and the best in the world from Europe, America, and even Canada go and race at the Supernats.
So, like things like Supernats, what type of car is a USF 2000?
It's an open wheel Tatis USF 2000 car. You have the USF Junior car, which is the slowest one of the three. The USF 2000, which has better brakes and is faster on the straightaway. And then you have a USF Pro car, which is a completely different car, a lot more downforce, better brakes, and more power as well.
So when you get to Indy, what do you think would be like the most exciting track, or what your favorite track would be?
For me, it's going to be Toronto Indy. It's the only race in Canada that we have. But really close second would be the Indy 500. I mean, that track has so much history behind it. To win there would be very memorable for sure.
So things like USF, what is your like favorite moment that you've ever had in your racing career?
That's a tough one. There's a lot of great moments I've had, and even in karting to cars. But I think the moment that stands out for me was winning the Toronto Indy for sure. I had my whole family there, all my friends, and to win on the streets of Toronto after watching from the sidelines the year before was definitely a memorable moment for me.
Explain the ladder system to the road to Indy.
So road to Indy, you have USF Juniors, and then after that, you win the championship. You can advance to USF 2000, and then after USF 2000, you got USF Pro 2000, and then once you win the USF Pro 2000, like everything else in between, you get a scholarship money to keep on advancing up the ladder system. But once you get to USF Pro 2000, you can sign with an IndyCar team to go to Indy next, and then once you're in Indy next, after that you write with IndyCar and you can get signed by an IndyCar team after that.
So is IndyCar like route more budget friendly?
Yes, for sure. After you win every championship in the USF Pro Championships category, you have a full ladder system to IndyCar. So when USF Juniors, you get a free ride to 2000. You win 2000, you get a free ride to Pro. You win Pro, you get a free ride to Indy next. And then once you're in Indy next, you're right with IndyCar and you can be signed whenever a team's ready for you.
But like, what's the ladder system for F1?
F1, there's not really a scholarship that they give you. It starts off with F4, then F3, then F2, and then Formula One. But once you get to Formula One, that's when you start making money.
So like in IndyCar, it's more budget friendly in the beginning, but once you hit IndyCar, are you making less or around the same as the F1 drivers?
I think on an average, IndyCar drivers make more than some F1 drivers, but the likes of Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton for sure make a lot more money than any other IndyCar driver.
Do you go to a special high school for racing that like understands that helps you when your racing journey?
I don't go to a special high school. I go to regular high school. I just have a wonderful team of teachers at my school that really put up with everything that I'm doing for racing. When I'm in Canada, I work a lot on school and make sure I'm catching up. Like for instance, now I'm making sure that I'm doing a lot of work beforehand, so that when I have to go for 3 weeks to go to New Orleans and then go to St. Petersburg, that I don't have any schoolwork for 3 weeks.
So usually my dad asks this question, but this time I'll be asking it. If you had $20 million, what car would you buy?
$20 million. I'd definitely buy an F1 car. That's what I think I would buy. Formula One car for sure.
So, Anthony, I'd just like to thank you very much for taking your time to come here today. If you guys want to find Anthony on social media, it'll be down here, or he can tell you himself.
Yeah, thank you guys. It was a good interview. I really enjoyed it. And you can follow me at Instagram, Anthony Martella. And yeah.
Thank you guys, and I'll see you guys at the next one.